Hello everyone, my name is Billy McCuna and I am a broadcast and media technology professional based in Mineola, New York. I do a lot of work in the New York City area, specializing in AV-IT workflows, and today we are going to be talking about Bitfocus Companion. So today's theme is basically going to be about what's Bitfocus, what it is, why it's useful, and then just going through the process. So for starters, I'm actually using a Bitfocus here to control my vMix. So I'm sure you've seen this. These are the Elgato Stream Decks. You could get them from pretty much any electronic store, such as Best Buy, Micro Center, Walmart, B&H. You could find these anywhere, Amazon. So it allows you to create presets and recalls for various different functions within a range of audiovisual software. So what's great about it is that it actually expands the boundaries that sort of exist within the traditional Stream Deck software. So why is this important? So what's great about Bitfocus for as opposed to the regular Stream Deck software is that it actually allows you to talk to devices over your local network. So instead of just having an instance of OBS on this machine and then being able to control it locally, you're going to get capabilities where you can talk to stuff beyond your local machine. So, as an example here, we're going to go through this entire process, and I'm going to guide you step by step on how to integrate Companion into your existing workflows. So, let's get started. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to install and set up the software. So I'm going to go to Google Chrome right here, and I am going to type in Bitfocus Companion. As you can see, we get our link right here. And what happens next is we are going to click on download. And here it's going to bring us to a login. And I'm going to go to Companion. And I'm going to click download. So Companion is compatible with a range of OSs, Windows, Mac OS, as well as the ARM and x86 versions of those main OSs, as well as the Linux platforms. So if you go to Companion, click the stable 3.4.3 here, it's going to give you a range of options here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to click on Windows because this is for a Windows machine, Windows 11. I'm going to click it. Okay. Now it should start the download momentarily. Okay, so looks like Companion is just about done installing, and it's going to open this one complete. Okay, we got it right here. And I'm just going to install this only for me at the moment. And I'm going to put this in the destination folder that it wants me to on my user account. So as you can see, Companion is being installed on my Windows 11 Pro machine. And now we're going to set up the program, and we're going to start to go through a lot of the bells and whistles. And I'm just going to close out other applications here that I don't need, so we can make sure that our system just has enough resources at hand. Okay, so I'm going to click Run. I'm going to make sure that Run Companion is checked here, and just click Finish. Every time you open Companion it's going to give you this window. So essentially, it's going to tell you what IP address and port the service is running on. So as you can see, we are using localhost and then port number 8000. So this doesn't just mean that it's going to run on the local host. You can actually make this accessible over your computer network. And why I say that is when you're doing something like this, what you want to do is, kind of look at the stuff with substance. And why is because having some networking knowledge is going to be essential when it comes to Bitfocus. So I have an option here of the GUI interface. So if I click on Change Network Interface, it's going to give me some options. I could do all interfaces. So that's 0.0.0.0. All instances are going to be able to access Bitfocus over the network. Localhost, Wi-Fi, or Ethernet. So, for instance, since I'm using a production network, which is just all these devices in this podcast studio on its own network, I'm just going to use the podcast studio shout-out network for now. I'm going to click that right here. And if I click Launch GUI, it's going to give me this menu that says Welcome to Companion. Whether you are a new user or upgrading, there are a number of settings you should know before using Companion. This wizard will walk you through the following configuration settings: surface detection configuration, button grid size, remote control services, and an admin GUI password. So if you're using an Elgato Stream Deck and you have that connected to the computer that's hosting Bitfocus, what that means is that you'll be able to use these devices right away as soon as they're connected. It may not be set up entirely the way you want, but at least you have something to get started. So for USB surface detection configuration, I usually like to watch for newly connected USB devices. And I like to use Companion natively. I don't necessarily like to use the Companion plugin with the Stream Deck running in the back, the Stream Deck software using the Companion plugin, because honestly, I just like the services to just be as simple as possible. Have less resources, only use what you really need. So I'm just going to click Watch for newly connected USB devices. And I'm also going to turn off the X keys because I don't have an X keys on me. And this is where it gets a little tricky. So there are different versions of the Stream Deck. So if you have a Stream Deck XL, that's going to be a higher button count than what the regular Stream Deck that I have here is going to have. So I am just going to make it 4. I'm going to make this 3 rows for the regular Stream Deck. And then in terms of columns, I'm going to do 5. Because this Stream Deck here has a total of 15 buttons. This is the Stream Deck that I'm going to be using to program everything. So when you click Next, it's going to ask me what remote control services that you want. So Companion can be controlled over the network by various methods. Since these services do expose Companion to your network, it is only recommended that you enable these services as you need. One popular service that I have seen a lot working with video engineers at my full-time job, as well as previous freelance, part-time, and full-time jobs have had in the past, is Rosstalk, which is a communications protocol that's used with Ross video technology, such as routers, switchers, and other peripherals. So I'm just going to click Next because I'm not using these other protocols in the moment. And I'm going to not use an admin GUI password. It's not necessary for this demo, but if you are using this over a computer network where potentially other people can get into that companion and you just want to have it for yourself, I would go with a password. And I'm just gonna click apply. And now congratulations, you have finished. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, just to get started, is I'm actually going to restart Companion. So I'm going to go onto the caret here, headed icons, and I want to make sure that Companion's not running at the moment. So it's not running. I'm going to double click Companion again. And now I'm going to make sure that on the GUI interface, it's just on the second Ethernet. And I'm going to click Launch GUI. So now we have full realm for how we're going to start this. So now we have Companion, and now we're going to start to actually create a connection. So I have OBS on this computer, Open Broadcaster Software. So if I launch OBS Studio, which is another open source program, I'm just going to create a couple scenes here. Create some colors, and we're going to connect these with Bitfocus. Okay, there we go. Okay, perfect, perfect. Okay, good. Right. So I have 3 scenes here that I've set up with OBS. I set up a white color, a red color, as well as video source with hello. So what we're going to want to do is we're actually going to connect these with Companion. I'm going to show you how to do that. And this technique of actually making the buttons, adding the connections, applies to any other software, such as vMix, Malumen, and other audiovisual software. So we're going to click on Connections on our web GUI, and we're going to scroll down until we find OBS. Now you could also search for it, but I do recommend looking into some of these other connections when you have time and just seeing how you do, how you could add to other infrastructure. Perhaps you have other devices that you might want to add later to Companion, so definitely helps to look through that list at times. I'm going to click OBS Studio. I'm just going to add it. So under the server IP host name, because this is a local host, I'm going to type in 127.0.0.1, and I'm going to keep that port on right here. Okay, we're going to go back to OBS, and we're going to link this server. So as you can see here, we are going to go to Tools, WebSocket Server Settings, and I'm going to check my port number. On Companion, it is consistent with OBS, and I'm just going to disable the authentication, and I'm going to enable the WebSocket server, and I'm going to click Apply. So now we get a green check mark in Companion. So what does a green check mark mean? It means that the connection to the device is okay. Companion can talk to that device and it can receive feedback. So if I go back to OBS and go to Tools, and then I go to the WebSocket server settings and I disable it and click Apply, it's going to say on Companion it's disconnected. So I'm going to re-enable that right here. So we now have our 3 scenes. We are able to have communication with OBS and Companion on the same machine. So now comes the fun part. We're going to actually start to go through some buttons. Now for starters, it actually gives you a presets menu, which are basically ready-made buttons with text, actions, and feedback, which you could drop onto a button to get you started quickly. So I'm just going to click this so I could show you what these preset buttons actually do, and then we're going to make a button. So I'm going to click OBS, and as you can see, there's a number of different things that you can do here. So I am going to go to scene to program. Since I'm not using the preview function on OBS right now, I'm just going to click scene to program, and then I am going to take these three buttons and I'm going to drag them onto my page. So we've done that. We're only using one page this time. Also note you can create multiple pages, but make sure you're using the page that you want to. And as you can see, the Stream Deck that I have right here, it's getting the same page from Companion. So what I'm going to do here is if I switch between these three settings using the Stream Deck, and I'm going to bring up my web button so you could also see that in conjunction with OBS right here. We have our first scene, we have our second scene, and then we have our third scene. So what's happening here is that we're pressing an action on the button of our choice, and then there's a feedback bus that Companion gets from OBS that says, okay, scene 1 is on the air. So if I go to the second scene, you could see that it blinks for a minute, then puts the red on, indicating that that scene is the one that's live. I'm going to continue to this one. Same exact thing. So if we go back to Bitfocus here for a minute and just go back to the admin page, I'm going to click on scene button right here, and it's going to give us a lot of options. So if we want to edit our button, you would have to click the button, and then the editor would pop on here to the right. So as you can see, we have options for text, for font, for rotary actions if you have the Stream Deck Plus, and then steps and feedback. So you can create, you can have a button that has 2 steps, for instance. So if you want a button that, puts a lower third on the screen as well as takes the lower third off the screen, kind of have it in like a 1x2, 1x2, you could do that here too. So that's what a press action does. So you can create multiple steps and have a press action inside there. You can also have a single button push that does multiple things at the same time. So so that's steps. If we go to feedbacks, we can see that OBS scene and program. So what this feedback bus means is that it will turn the background red if scene is in if the scene is in the background. So I'm going to go back to OBS here, and I am going to see that we have our scene button here. Go to presets, and this is is corresponding with the correct scene. Scene 2, same thing, same exact function, and then scene 3. We scroll down to the feedbacks. Everything is pretty much in alignment with what's going on. So let's go back to the steps as well as actions. So we're going to go to our next layer here, which is button 1.1. And I'm going to click create button. And I am going to label this as steps. So what this means is we're going to have a press action in a step and a second step with another press action. So under press action, I'm going to click this folder icon here, and I'm going to go to OBS. So what I'm going to do here is I want to take a source that's actually in my scene, so these sources that exist, and I actually want to make this disappear. I want to make the hello disappear and then come back. So I'm going to look for the source. Set source visibility, and I'm going to click that right here. And this is going to be for scene 3, and this is going to be for the hello. And instead of having it toggle back and forth, so for simplicity, if I go back here and I just go back to the hello button, so it's automatically creating a default. It's having essentially a step within a single step. So if I go back to the press actions, I'm going to do visible, and then I'm going to do true. So let's say if this is off, I'm going to take it off. It puts it right back on. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to duplicate this step. So now we have step 2, and I'm going to change that visible value back to false. So now that we have our OBS, getting these commands, we've actually created the same exact function using 2 steps. So there are multiple ways of doing things. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm actually going to create a multi-button. So what is a multi-button helpful for? So if there's multiple functions that you want to get done at once, using a single button push, it is possible. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to go to our record settings in OBS and make sure that it is working properly. So, okay, OBS's recording scenes look good. So every time we go to scene 1, it's going to attempt to start the record. So under scene 1, I'm going to add another press action here. And then I'm going to type in the search, record. And I am going to do start recording. Okay. So now we're going to go back to OBS, and I'm going to use my Stream Deck here to activate the scene. And as you can see, OBS is now recording. So if I go back to scene 3, go back to scene 1, it's still recording. That's because we've actually sent 2 record pushes by going back to scene 3 and then back to scene 1. So this is great. So in case you want to go to a holding slide and then have all that functionality just built into that button push, you can do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click stop recording because I don't want to take up too much resources on my system, and I'm going to delete the action here. Or even better, instead of removing the action, I can disable that action. So let's say if you want to just make some tiny configs to your Bitfocus, but you don't want those buttons per se to interrupt another endeavor that you're doing, this is actually pretty helpful. Another thing is called release actions. So I'm going to go to a release action here. And I want to do something where if I go to scene 1, and when I release that button, it's going to go to scene 3. So I'm going to go to OBS, back under Browse Actions, and I am going to go to scene. I'm going to type in scene here, and I'm going to do set program scene. Same one under the press actions. And then I am going to set this to scene 3. So I'm going to go to scene 2 to start. Now watch closely. I'm holding down button 1, and when I release, it goes to button 3. Button 1 press, button 1 release. So there is a lot of things that you can do in sort of creating these buttons, creating these feedback channels. For my podcasting setup at home, I actually have a computer in my home office that's using vMix that's actually running the primary records. And then inside the studio, I actually have a backup recorder. That is literally getting identical commands to what is equivalent in vMix. So let's say if vMix is getting camera 1, Blackmagic ATEM is also going to get camera 1. So this is extremely helpful because what's going to happen is that you're going to have to make sure that everything is in sync. And this is really important. So I'm going to show you some other features just to kind of summarize other stuff that you could do with Bitfocus. But my goal today is to make sure that you kind of get a glimpse of what it is, what you could do, and not necessarily to overwhelm you. So other functions that also exist, there's a delay function that you could exist on the press actions. There's also triggers. So triggers I won't get into because if you have a specific use case, it might be more of a thing that you want, but if you don't, it's not just something to worry about, but it is helpful to know that you can create actions that trigger other actions, different variables. There's a lot of settings here that you could do in terms of for OSC connectivity, TCP listening. And also one thing that I really like though, in terms of settings, one thing that you might want to take away, importing and exporting configuration. So what does this mean? This actually means that you can import a config that you may have had on an old computer that you want to bring back onto your current machine. You can also export a config. I actually do this all the time for my podcasting setup. I back up the config, so in case the file gets corrupt, I can revert back to one that I backed it up to. So if I click export here, and I can choose what file format I want to do, and I can select what I want to include. So if I click download, I get something called a companion config. So what's going to happen is that I can import this config right here, which I'm not going to do, but it's going to give me that option. Other things that are really helpful, let's say if you don't have a Stream Deck or are going to be planning to operate this on an iPad, you actually have access to something called web buttons. So I've kind of touched base on this earlier when you're showing it on the screen. So if you click on web buttons, the web buttons is basically going to give you kind of a Stream Deck in the web browser. And this is really helpful because if you're doing a lot of different things, then, let's say if you don't have a Stream Deck or you just want to get it onto an iPad or something, make sure you copy the IP address and the port, make sure the iPad is on the same Wi-Fi or wireless access point as the companion instance. So if I click on here and go to scene, it's going to reflect those changes immediately on the screen. So if I go to scene 2, scene 3, all of these are basically reflecting. I could go to steps here, scene 3. So this is really, really helpful in terms of, okay, so how do you actually get your stuff in order. So there's a lot of ways that you could be flexible in a sense where if you have a specific production need and you want to be able to fulfill that need, this is a great way to do it. Other things that I would note down is, maybe keeping a post-it of network assignments. So let's say if you want to add a device, make sure you know the device's IP address. Um, and that's basically it. So I will be doing more tutorials about various broadcasting and audiovisual technology in the IT realm over the course of the next coming weeks, months, and years. So you can follow me on Instagram, you can follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and other streaming platforms. And I hope to maybe do these things live where I could actually have an audience. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But this has been a wonderful session, and I look forward to having you watch my next session, which will be coming up very soon. Thank you.